I'm sports editor Dan Woessner, and this is SVM's Blitz for week 3 of the high school football season. Up first, we have a big game in the Big Northern West as the Dixon Dukes at 2-0 go to Rockford to play the Lutheran Crusaders, who are also 2-0. Dixon's coming off a 20-13 win over Burlington Central, while Lutheran beat Rockford Christian 74-12. This is the first game in the Big Northern West division for the Dukes, and it's a tough one to start out, but it's a good way to start because they get to see the best. The big deal for them this week is stopping James Robinson, who had a monster freshman and sophomore year with the Crusaders, and he had 110 yards and 2 TDs in week 1, and that was only in the first half against Quincy Notre Dame before thunderstorms canceled the rest of the game. The Dukes have been a little bit more tested this year in their first 2 games, and I think that's going to pay off big in this one. I do think they can pull off the win here. Our second big game of the week is from the NUIC Upstate. It features 2 2-0 teams and the Polo Marcos, who are traveling to Stockton to play the Blackhawks. Stockton has been the big dogs in the NUIC Upstate the last 3 or 4 years, and the Marcos are looking to take over that spot. Last year, Polo nearly pulled off the upset, losing 38-34 over Stockton, who went on to go undefeated in the regular season before falling in the playoffs and going 11-1 overall. Last week, Stockton senior quarterback Thomas Fox threw for 2 TDs and 184 yards and rushed for 71 more in a tough game against Ackwen. The Marcos have displayed multiple weapons in the first 2 weeks, including Brad Kavanaugh, Brody Grobe, Brooks Grobe, Richie Bartnick, and Dylan Beers, and a few more other guys. And they'll need all those guys to contribute in week 3 to pull off the win over Stockton. Our third big game this week is the Amboy Clippers going to Spring Valley to play Hall. Both teams are 2-0, and it's a Three Rivers crossover game. The cool thing about this game is they're both ground-based offenses, so it's going to be a real slugfest in the middle of the lines. Hall has been depending on Chris Hammonds the most, and they did last week in a 21-20 win over Erie Prophetstown. Hall led 21-6 at halftime and then kind of had to hold on at the end to beat EP. Amboy has shown depth in their backfield. Drake Barlow had a big game in week 1. Appleman has had 2 very consistent games of over 100 yards. And Chris Jones had a big game against Sherrard last week. Traditionally, when the Clippers have running backs like that in the backfield, they are primed for a long playoff run. Our final big game of the week is the rivalry game of the week, and it's the Wooden Shoe Bowl, where the Morrison Mustangs at 0-2 go to Fulton to play the Steamers, who are 1-1. Both teams rebounded from tough week 1 losses. Morrison didn't get a win, but they lost in triple overtime to Orion 26-20. Fulton turned around after a week 1 loss to Orion and beat Kewanee 21-12. Morrison has owned this series the last 10 years, winning all 10 games, but the last 2 years have been very close. Morrison won 8-7 in 2013 and 18-6 in 2012. This could be the Steamers' year. Like I said, they're coming off a win over Kewanee, and Morrison has to get over a tough triple overtime loss. This should be a good one. I think the Fulton Steamers can take it. Check out Thursday's editions for staff picks, preview capsules for all 12 games in the area, and preview stories for some of the select games.